Chapter 7, Selection and Development, Part 1. When we talk about selecting candidates for policing positions, we really have three major selection decisions, at least according to your textbook. These include entry, so it could be at the lowest level, new police officers coming to the job for the first time. And so most likely they're going to enter at the patrol level. Or it could be new managers, which is known as lateral hiring, where these are officers who already have experience, but they have experience in perhaps another police department, and now they're being hired on to become a new police chief. They're hired on to become a new supervisor, maybe a sergeant, maybe a captain, maybe a lieutenant. So they're new to their new department, but they're not new police officers. So we normally think of entry selection as just when you first become a police officer, but obviously you can move from one police department to another. Maybe you go from patrol in one police department to patrol in another. So maybe you leave the Philadelphia Police Department to become a Pennsylvania State Trooper. So that's still an entry-level selection, so you're still moving even though you have experience. Or you could be moving from a Philadelphia patrol officer to maybe a higher-ranking position in the Pittsburgh Police Department or whatever. And so, again, you could have lateral hiring or you could have brand new hiring of employees. We also have selection decisions concerning reassignment. This involves moving officers to different positions within the department. So maybe you're reassigning, if it's a larger police department, a larger city, maybe you're reassigning a particular officer from one precinct to another. You need more personnel in another unit, another precinct, and so they're being moved. So you have to decide who's going to move. And so reassignment, this could be to different units, to different locations, different precincts, these kinds of things. But again, these are also selection decisions. So you need to figure out how you're going to make that decision. That's going to be part of your selection process. And then finally, promotion. So how do we move patrol officers or supervisors up to higher levels within the department? How do we promote them? Maybe we promote to a supervisor's position, or maybe we promote to a special position, such as from patrol officer to detective. How do we make that promotion decision? Well, obviously we need to screen applicants. We need to figure out who is the right fit for these positions. And so one thing we can do is, as your book describes, we can screen out applicants. So when we screen out applicants, if that's really how we're going to go through that application pile, let's say we have a large pile of applicants for a particular position, if we have really two choices at the beginning and even throughout the process. We can either screen out or we can screen in. And so screening out is where we remove unacceptable candidates. So maybe we're looking at the pile of applications, and one of our requirements is that the person have at least 60 credits of college completed, and a particular applicant doesn't have any college. Well, we can screen that person out right away. They're disqualified, they're not acceptable, they don't have all the qualifications, or maybe they're too young, or maybe they have a criminal background, or some other kind of disqualifying factor. So that would be screening out. We're removing the unacceptable candidates. Screening in would involve identifying the top candidates. So instead of looking for the worst applicants or the unqualified applicants and getting rid of them as we would in screening out, instead we're going to sift through that pile of applicants and we're going to identify the ones that look to be our top applicants. So maybe we give a test like the Pennsylvania State Police do, and when we begin processing applications, we take the people from the top of the list, the ones who performed the best on the test. That is really screening in. We're identifying the top candidates. So we haven't screened out necessarily anyone yet, but we have screened in some people, and we said, okay, these are the people we really want to invite back to go further in the application process. Even applicants can do this. You know, I'm giving these examples from the department's perspective, but even the applicants for a job can screen out or screen in. I mean, think about jobs that you've considered. You may have said, okay, I need a part-time job for college. I'm going to be a waiter or waitress in a restaurant. And so you screen out certain restaurants and you say, I'll never work for that place. I don't care. You know, they have a bad reputation. They don't pay well, all those kinds of things. So you screen it out. You say, no, that's not going to be on my list. Or you can screen in. You can say, I really want to work for this restaurant. You know, it's the best one out there, and that's the one I'm going to. So you can do the same thing with police departments. You can say, look, I'm never going to work for the police department in that particular town because they just have a terrible reputation. They don't pay well. They don't treat their people well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you screen them out. Or maybe you say, I don't want to work in that part of the country. I don't want to work on the West Coast. I want to stay in the East. So that's screening out all those West Coast departments. Screening in would be saying, you know, my dream job is to work for the Pennsylvania State Police, and so I'm going to screen them in. So even applicants can do this, but you know, certainly police departments, as they're going through the application process, they can screen out, they can screen in people. So how do we get applicants for the jobs, whatever position it may be? You know, we've got to get them to actually apply for the job. Well, we can do passive recruitment, which is basically, you know, we put out general ads. This, you know, if we're talking about somebody who, an agency that hires regularly, like the Pennsylvania State Police, they're going to put out a notice when the next test is. They're going to put up on their website application links, those kinds of things. But that's more passive. That's basically saying if we post it onto the web, they will come. So you're not really going out and recruiting anybody beyond just generally advertising that there are jobs available. Here's the application process. Apply if you wish. Well, obviously, you're not guaranteeing yourself you're going to get the best applicants. Maybe you're not going to get all the kinds of applicants that you want. We'll talk in a later chapter about diversity. Maybe because of your history, maybe you've been traditionally a white male organization, you're not attracting very many minority applicants or very many female applicants. And so if you want to attract more, then passive recruitment might not work. It's going to work for the white males, but it may not work for anyone else. And so we may need to be more active in our recruitment. So again, passive recruitment, we put out these general, basically want ads, and you know, links to our websites and those things, and just expect people that will come to it without really pushing them towards it. Or we have general testing, those kinds of things. But active recruitment, we really have our recruiters go out and visit the particular groups that we're interested in hiring. So we're more actively looking for the kinds of applicants that we want. We're not just hoping that they are attracted to our website or that they take our test or they generally apply, those kinds of things. But we are actually going out and meeting with them and pursuing them more. So, for instance, if we are interested in more female police officers, we'll learn in our diversity chapter that females are very underrepresented in policing. But if we really are an agency that wants more gender diversity, then we need to go and target women more. Maybe we, if we're not finding significant numbers of women in the criminal justice majors at universities where we usually recruit, then maybe we go to other majors where women are more represented, and we try to encourage them to become police officers. We develop other programs to encourage them. So, we may have advertising campaigns. When I was I used to teach at the University of Pittsburgh, and I got to know the FBI recruiter who was based in Pittsburgh. But he was really active in recruiting more minority and female applicants to the FBI. And so one of the things that he was behind, he was really leading the efforts nationally to do this. One of the things that he was able to accomplish was an advertising campaign where there were billboards off the Pitt campus, and I'm sure there were these same billboards in other places, and they featured an African American woman with the title around her picture, or the slogan around her picture, "I am the FBI." So trying to convince people to think beyond the typical white male stereotype of an FBI agent, to imagine that women can be FBI agents and minority Applicants can also be FBI agents. So advertising campaigns, really going out and trying to promote that we are an open organization. The Dutch police used to have a campaign to recruit more gay officers, and their campaign slogan was, "We like young men as much as you do." And so they were really trying to appeal to gay men and to say, we are an open, tolerant organization. We want you. Camp cadets, that are more geared towards children, this can be an early recruitment. I mean, you're getting, when you have teenagers going to these camp cadets, or maybe even sometimes younger, if you're not familiar with camp cadet, it's maybe a week-long camp sponsored by the police, and the kids who go to it get to experience what it's like in very limited ways, what it's like to be a police officer. And so these kinds of programs and other kinds of outreach programs may appeal to kids from an even younger age to say, hey, I could be a police officer. And so even at a young age, you may be putting that thought into their head. The effects of recruitment, the portrayal of the department in your recruiting materials often affects the type of candidates that you're getting. I often show videos, and I encourage you to look online for recruitment videos from various police departments, and there are some good ones out there and there's some bad ones. And so I think some of the bad ones that send the wrong message, especially for ordinary municipal police departments, are the ones that really, really emphasize almost exclusively, almost with no images of anything else, the paramilitary and violent part of policing. And so you're really sending out a bad message if you're doing that, because that's not really what, in any municipal agency, that's not really what policing is most of the time. So yeah, it's exciting. You show pictures in your video that you post onto YouTube, your recruitment video. You show pictures of your SWAT team breaking down doors and doing those things. But that's usually not what that entry-level police officer is going to be doing. And besides that, you may be appealing to that applicant who's really interested in guns and violence. And if that's not what you're going to be doing most of the time, that person's going to be bored and dissatisfied with their job, and maybe they're going to perform it poorly because they're more interested in that aspect of the job than the communications aspect, than the service aspects, all those kinds of things. So you have to question, what kind of applicants are police going to get? It's kind of the old notion that we hear in computing, garbage in, garbage out. If you're really going to appeal to use of force in your videos, those are the people you're probably going to attract, and they're not going to necessarily be a good fit for your police department. If you're working in a small town where there's hardly any violence, that officer is going to be dissatisfied who's attracted by your recruitment video that featured breaking down doors, crime fighting all the time, when crime fighting is probably the least common thing that you do. You're going to be doing a lot of service, you're going to be doing a lot of keeping the peace, those kinds of things. So again, when you're creating a recruitment video, you really need to consider what kind of message is it sending about your department. Is it really representative of your department? And is it really attracting the people that you want to attract?